Hey everybody, Paul Cram here. If you haven't checked it out, the video before this one, why are you sitting next to me on the bus? In it, I share a story about a man who sits next to me, and he's got like some maybe blood and puke and stuff all over his shirt, which is just it is not the most appetizing thing to sit next to. But I didn't really get into anything with him. I didn't talk to him or anything like that. I was pretty standoffish, which I usually am on the bus. But I was going to mention, I was waiting for a bus one time, really late one night, and this would have been, I think it was a Friday night. This would have been close to like a bar close time, or maybe even a little after that. And I'm at the bus stop. This girl comes up, and I say girl because I think if I had to guess her age, which I'm bad at guessing people's age, I would say that she would probably have been about 16, 17, something like that. So to me, a girl. And she, just sits down on the bench. We're both just sitting there waiting. And this guy comes up, this rather not so pleasant looking guy. And instead of sitting next to me, he sits next to this girl. And in my head, I'm just like, huh. And he proceeds to I wish that I wish this was not what he said, but he glances over at her, and in this voice I'm just he's like, wow, it sure is not safe out here for a young girl like you to be out. And he says this to her, and as he is looking up and down her, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, that did not just come out of your mouth. That you did not just say that in that intimidating kind of way. Like, huh. And she just kind of glanced at him and said, yeah, no, whatever, I'm fine. It's, whatever. And he keeps talking. He keeps saying things like that where he's just like, it's really not safe to be out here for somebody like you. And I was sitting there and I was just like, huh. And she got visibly uncomfortable. Like, she literally was crossing her arms across her chest and crossed her legs and was just trying not to pay attention to him. And he didn't stop. He kept talking. And finally I was just like, in my head, I'm just like, this is so wrong. You are obviously intimidating somebody that is much younger than you. This guy must have been at least my age. No, he had to be older than me. He's probably in his mid-40s, something like that. Greasy guy. And finally, I had enough. I don't usually like to confront people in public. You never know how they're going to respond. You never know where they're at in life. You don't know all of those things. But in this instance, I was like, no, you're not going to do this to this girl. You're not going to scare her out of her wits just because you're an old man that's a pervert and thinks that, oh, I can intimidate this young girl or scare her in some weird sexual kind of way. And so he says to her again, he said something to the effect of, something like, oh, it sure is late for you to be out here all alone. Hopefully everything's good for you when you get going back home or something. And at that point, I just was like, no, we're done. So I just said, hey, she's going to be absolutely fine when she's going to get home just great. There is not going to be any problems whatsoever with her getting home. And the guy looked at me and he's just like, this is none of your business. And I was like, actually, it's a lot of my business. This girl is going to get home safely and you are not going to have anything to say about it. And he kind of backed off and was a little bit just like, I couldn't really read what he was thinking. He obviously looked annoyed. And the girl didn't really acknowledge me. She just stayed in the kind of huddled up position. And when the bus came, we only had to wait a couple more minutes. And the bus came, and again, this guy is so creepy. He acts like he's like, oh, so gentlemanly. He's like, after you, and lets her get on the bus, and he's staring at her the whole time. And I was just like, no. So I did the same thing to him. I just glued my eyes on him, and I was just like, yep. No, you go ahead, get on the bus. And he sits down on the bus, and he's a row right behind the girl, and I was just like, no. So I sat right there, and I stared at the guy the whole bus ride back. And the girl got up to get off on her stop, and he glanced over at me, and I was still looking at him, and I just was like, So she goes off, and this guy gets off like I think 3 bus stops late or something like that. But I was so irritated. I was like, dude, you don't do that to people. Like, yuck, yuck. And I realized too, like that's not, like on my part. I don't like to be confrontational. I don't like to get into situations like that. I don't like to put myself into situations where I don't know if this guy has some, I don't know. You know what I mean? Who knows? Maybe he's got a knife in his pocket. Maybe he has a gun. Maybe he's on medication and is crazy and will just go nuts. But there's that point where you're just like, no, you can't do this to people. You can't, just because you're crazy or something like that, you can't do that. So I don't know. On a lighter note, I will share this other story of riding on the bus. And I should share, I ride a bus that is very, very colorful, and I love it. And by colorful, I mean things like this story. I got on the bus late again. It seems like it's always when it's late at night. There's interesting people that ride the bus even when it's not late at night. But I'm on the bus coming back home, and I don't know what was going on. It was interesting. It was a pretty full bus, and this woman gets on, and I felt so bad. I was like, oh my gosh. Literally, she has no teeth in her mouth, and she looks like she's in her 40s. And she is drunker than a drunk, worm in the bottom of a tequila bottle. I mean, she is so drunk. And the bus driver is, usually I think the policy is not to let somebody that's inebriated on the bus. But I think the bus driver was being kind of, just by being like, I think the bus driver actually told her, like, just if you sit down and you don't bother anybody, you're fine. You get off when you get off, And this woman who has no teeth, she sits down and she is so agitated, and she turns around and she starts screaming at the man sitting behind her. And she's like, you took my bottle! Where is it? Where's my bottle? What did you do with it? I want my bottle of stuff! And the man is just like looking at her, and I was thoroughly entertained. I was like, it cost $1.75 to ride the bus, and I was like, wow, this is the best $1.75 I've spent for entertainment in a long time. And the lady proceeds to, she like looks like she's gonna crawl over her chair and like strangle this guy. This guy is like, I don't have your bottle. I don't know you. And he gets up and like goes to the back of the bus. And the bus driver starts yelling at this woman to sit down and be quiet. The lady stops shouting. And she is like looking around, and she's looking, and she starts looking down by her feet, and she literally gets down on the floor of the bus, and she starts crawling around on the floor, and she starts crawling by people's feet, and she's looking, and it's like, oh my gosh, I will admit, I started laughing because I was just like, wow, you are so drunk. And to get to that point where you're that gone, I don't know. It's sad to laugh a little bit, but I, at the same time, was like super uncomfortable too, because I was like, I don't know what to do for this person. And now I think there are a lot of things that you could do for that person. One of them being to probably call the cops. I think that's what you should do. Yeah, call the police, and then probably tell the bus driver, to wait at the next stop or something like that. I think that's probably what you should do. I didn't think of that at the moment. I laughed and enjoyed the spectacle, which is very not so nice. But anyhow, what happened is she's crawling around on the floor looking for her bottle of whatever, rum, gin, vodka, who knows. And finally, what happened was she starts shouting at people again. She started pointing at this woman and just was ranting about the woman taking her stuff. And the bus driver's like, I know where your bottle went. And the bus driver pulls over. It's not a bus stop. It's just the side of a street. She's like, your bottle is right out there. And the woman, just the look on her face was she just was like, oh, is it? Oh my gosh, okay. And she stumbles out the door of the bus and onto the sidewalk, and she starts looking around for her bottle, and we drove away. Did the bus driver make the best decision by doing that? Probably not. The bus driver probably should have done kind of what I talked about too, which is the bus driver, probably should have contacted a cop or the police or the bus, whoever the bus station thing is, and let them know, like, I have a drunk person on. Anyway, you get it. So it was entertaining, and I admit I was entertained by it. So yeah. Anyway, those are my two grittier bus stories. What about you? Do you have any experiences on Metro Transit or buses or planes or anything like that with travel that are they don't even have to be funny. They could just be, experiences. Let me know. Drop a comment or let me know. And as always, subscribe. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.